Good morning, children. We're going to see if this works. I got to look up the right number. We're going to call the Minnesota CPA Society.
Hello, this is Stephanie.
Hi, Stephanie. My name's Aaron Clary. I'm writing for a blog called Captain Capitalism, and I'm doing some research on what have been the historical requirements to get your certification and become a CPA.
Okay.
And it is my impression, although that's why I'm calling, is that at one point in time, presumably, you could just take the CPA exam, and if you passed it, you were then a CPA. Is that correct?
Now, I've only been here about 10 years, and from what I understand before, there was always an experience requirement, which was 2 years in public accounting.
Okay.
Now, if you go way, way, way back when, that I'm not sure, but that would be really the Minnesota Board of Accountancy who you would need to contact because they're the actual licensing body.
Okay.
So they would be able to tell you if things changed. But as far as I know, you took the exam, but then you had a 2-year requirement in public accounting. So you couldn't go directly to work for, like a Best Buy or a Target in their accounting department. You actually had to work for a public accounting firm for 2 years and then get your certificate.
Okay.
There were some different requirements way back when to sit for the exam in Minnesota because you could actually sit for the exam without having a degree in accounting.
Right.
Or a major in accounting, you could have life experience, a certain amount of work experience and a high school degree and so on. But as far as the very specific, if there was ever a time where you could just take the exam and become certified, you would want to contact the Board of Accountancy, and I can give you their phone number.
No, this will suffice for my purposes here. Since that time, then, you obviously have had to get a degree now, correct?
Correct.
All right, and now I guess, do you need master's classes now, or is that just rumor?
No, now you need to have it. It really depends on the accreditation level of your school. So there's either a accreditation level 1, 2, or 3, and so depending on which accreditation level your school falls under, that determines what coursework you have to take. But for most of the schools in Minnesota, they lie within that level 1 accreditation.
Okay.
And so for that, you need 24 hours of upper division accounting courses. So that's courses that are numbered 300 and above. And they fall into a category of different classes, so tax, accounting, and so on. They don't tell you specifically, obviously, because each college is going to have different classes. However, if you have a college with an accounting program, they have it set up so that you have a certain number of courses that are 300 and above that are part of that major.
And that's just at the bachelor level?
Correct.
Okay. And then since then, there have not been requirements to get master's classes?
Correct.
Okay, all right. And then CPE, the continuing education, is that new or has that always been with the CPA certification?
That's also always been, it's changed in terms of certain requirements like the amount of self-study you can take and the fact that they added an ethics requirement at one point, but they're always, as far as I am aware, and again you could confirm this with the Board of Accountancy, in Minnesota there has been a requirement to have a certain number of continuing education credits. And they've changed the rules in terms of how many you need and in what area they can be in and so on. So that's kind of fluctuated over the years, but there has been a continuing education requirement.
Okay. All right, well, thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Absolutely.
All right, bye.
You're welcome. Bye-bye.
Okay, that didn't go quite exactly as I had hoped, but the nice lady over at the Society of Minnesota CPAs made my point clear enough, right? The reason I made this call and the reason I wanted it recorded was to show you kids, and by kids, I don't mean just college kids, but high school age kids as well. The biggest problem, one of the biggest problems you're facing as a young person, that is progressive credentialism. Now, I didn't come up with this term, somebody else did, but it's a big problem. I'm glad someone came up with the term because your biggest challenge in identifying threats is to name them, identify them first, and this is one of these huge problems you face. What you'll notice is back in the day, to become a CPA, very reputable thing, you needed 2 years of real-world experience, and then you took the test and you passed, and you were CPA. And since that time, there have been additional requirements. You had to get yourself a college degree. Then you had to get certain accounting courses, specific ones. The only reason I also brought this up now is because a lot of my accounting friends, CPA friends, are saying that you need master's classes. And so that's why I wanted to call and confirm, but maybe that's not the case depending on what level of accreditation the schools were previously. And then you had to get continuing education. Right? Now, what this is precisely what the term progressive credentialism means. It means you get credentialed, but you have to keep going. You have to constantly get new and progress in your credentials or your credentialism. And the reason this poses a problem is because you're going to spend more time, or at least we're going the route where we spend more time getting credentialed and qualified. Yeah, everyone calls now, and I'm in the middle of it. Than you will actually working. And this has ramifications and consequences, not just to you as an individual, but to society as a whole, right? So there's 4 problems I came up with. I want to highlight these 4. But I'm sure there's more, but I sat down, thought about it, and wanted to go over these problems to give you the lay of the land and what you can expect going into the real world. And then how to avoid this problem, right? 1, with progressive credentialism, understand what companies, certification agencies, whatever, the industry groups are doing, is they're outsourcing training. And you might as well. I mean, if you think about it logically, why would they spend money on training if you're stupid enough to go and pay for your own training at marked up prices at colleges and universities? Okay, why will they train you? Why would they take the resources when unemployment is at about 8% and you're desperate enough for a job? You'll incur those costs yourself and constantly get trained to the point that someday they might even consider hiring you as a stock boy. I mean, heck, what was it? Recently there was an ad, a want ad for a clerk at McDonald's, and I think they either said bachelor's degree preferred or a bachelor's degree required. No offense, McDonald's, are you fucking kidding me? Right? This just shows you how bad it's gone, and it shows you just how much risks these corporations and employers are foisting upon you. They want you to get a bachelor's degree to become a clerk, or to be a teller, a cashier over at McDonald's, so you can make your $7 or $8 an hour. Right? This shows you how out of whack the labor market is, and how unrealistic their expectations are, and how dangerous progressive credentialism is to you young kids. All right. Second thing, problem number 2, it takes too long to incubate labor, and this hurts 2 people. 1, or 2 groups. 1, it hurts society. We have made it that older generations require the production of younger generations to pay for all their shit. And by shit, I mean Medicare, Social Security, all their stuff. Because, truthfully, no one generation is working up enough economic production to pay for their lives. And so they kind of shoot themselves in the foot. These are the people that are in charge. The older people are in charge, not the younger people. They say, well, we require more certification. We can't give you a job unless you have a bachelor's degree, even though it is your janitorial job and all this other stuff. So you got to spend, in the olden days, you went to school until you were 18. You could work a job and support yourself, at least, maybe even a family back then. But no, not anymore. Now you need a bachelor's degree. Well, that puts you to 22, 23 sometimes, depending on how efficiently managed the school is and how aggressive you want to be. And even then, no, a bachelor's is enough. You need a master's. Well, then you're going to be 24, 25, 26. And then what? You think you're going to have a job in this employment? You think you're going to have a job in this labor market? So you got to work crap jobs, not in your field, by the way. Go work at Walmart, go work at Amazon, go work as a stock boy, do something, work as a security guard like I and most of my friends did. And then maybe by the time you're 30, you're actually starting to get into your field. So 3 decades have gone by, 25 of which, if you didn't go to preschool, have been a quarter of a century has been spent training you and educating you. So that now by the time you're 30, you're finally deemed worthy enough to work for the holy and sacrosanct U.S. labor market. Are you kidding me? Quarter of a century? You're 30. You're pretty much half dead by that time. I mean, you're 40% there. You're 40%. Your youth is certainly gone. You've certainly wiped out your youth. That's gone. And all you did was study so you could go become a cashier at McDonald's. Right? So the country as a whole, it's screwed. We're expecting our economic growth and engine come for people from the ages of 30 to what, 60? So you got 3 decades. First decade's going to be wasted anyway. You ain't working any real production or anything like that. So in other words, we are taking our labor force, our younger people, and we're making it so that they can't even work while they're capable of it. We're having them jump through hoops in education so they get a freaking piece of paper and a certification and a credential after that. I mean, shoot, you want to look at something, look at the actuarial science. Look at actuaries. They got to get their degree, then they got to probably get a master, they got to get all these certifications. By the time they're finally rolling off the assembly line, they're 73 years old and dead. That's it. They just graduate with college debt. None of them actually make it into an actuarial firm. The other thing is that the other consequence, or the other group of risk of having labor too long to incubate is you. Forget society. You don't stand a shot. You graduate, by the time you're 26, 27, you finally get all your certifications, you still got your student debt. I don't know anyone who's over 30, within the 30s, that still doesn't have student debt. And that's going to be your problem. No one's giving you the opportunity to work off your debt that you've accrued for the past decade. All right? Yeah, you went to college maybe for 6 years, but you didn't have a real high enough paying position to actually make a dent in your student debt. So this carries on. You're old. By the time you're 30, your youth is gone, and all you did was piss it away, getting a degree, getting certifications, working crap jobs to maybe, gee willikers, massa, sure would be swell if I can go and work at McDonald's. Are you joking me? So that's the big risk that you face going down this particular road. All right? Related to this, problem number 3, it's mathematically impossible for you to save enough money to retire. You go to school, and while you're going to school, you're accruing debt, unless your parents are rich or the government's paying for it or something like that. But for most of you, you're accruing debt until you're at least a quarter century old. You don't really make real money after you graduate for at least the first couple of years. So we're just going to say at 30 to keep the numbers nice and round. You really don't make any money. Now, the first decade is paying off all the debt that you accrued in the college loans. So that by the time you're 35, 40, then you finally pay off your student loans. You think I'm joking? Most of my friends are, 30s, younger 40s. They still got freaking student loans. And got news here, this is student loans from 10, 15 years ago. The tuition rates of which have gone up tremendously since then, and you have way more debt than my generation's ever going to accrue. So you can expect at least until your upper 30s, if not your earlier 40s, to pay off the student loan, right? You haven't even started getting a net positive asset value yet. You haven't even started saving up money. So you're 42, and what? You've got 20 years to work up enough money to pay for all the stuff you want, like yourself. And if you're stupid enough, I don't mean stupid enough, I'm being sarcastic. Did you want family and kids? Did you want a house? Did you want a nice car? Oh, that stuff costs money too. So magically, somehow according to all these old farts that have set up this system, in 20 years, after you've paid off all your debt, now you can start accruing things. You have to work up enough money to pay off a house, cars. Oh, maybe your kids want to go to college too. Maybe you got to pay for their food, clothing, shelter, spouse, whatever. All those living expenses have to come out of that 20 years. And in those 20 years, you got to save up enough money to support yourself for 20 more years of retirement, which is mathematically impossible. So what I'm understanding from how, again, the older people have set up this economy, we are supposed to work up the entire amount of money we need to support ourselves in 80 years of life in 20 short years. So we're only supposed to really be accruing and working effectively for 1/4 of our lives. I don't see how that works. All right? God almighty. Sorry, technical glitches. And then the final problem is that when does progressive credentialism ever end? It doesn't. It never fucking ends. Look at the CPA. Now you gotta get CPE, continuing credits, continuing education. Well, you gotta get further. Oh, you gotta do a quarter. Oh, you gotta do this. It doesn't freaking stop. And the reason why is because corporations and employers can go ahead and they can get away with it. They can require additional training, additional certification. You can always do this. Well, if you don't really like to, there's millions of kids younger than you who've been brainwashed and trained to go down that path and get all this certification. In other words, everybody as a group is screwing themselves over, saying, okay, yeah, I'll go get more certification. I'll go into debt for you there, employer boss people. So you know, until, I know this will never happen, so that's why it's a death spiral. This will go until everyone's required to get their doctorates to go become a cop or whatever. Since it would require everyone in the labor force saying, no, we're not doing it. And then that one person would say, you know, like a cartel, he'd say, hey, you know what, if I'm the one person to do it, they'll actually pay me. So this just pits everyone in the United States labor force against one another, where you just keep going and pushing that progressive credentialism edge further and further, all kissing ass, all brown. And, you know, employers love it. They love it that you're doing that. I don't know why, or I know why they're saving a lot of it, but I don't. In any case, it's not going to happen where everyone wakes up and says, you know, I'm not doing it. Now, there are solutions, okay? And there's only three that I could really come up with, right? First is employers maybe someday will start waking up and realize it's cheaper for them to take a kid fresh out of high school. Say, look, kid, we'll train you. You don't have to go to college because we got to pay these doctorates and these master's candidates 60 freaking grand per year just to go and become a cashier at McDonald's. So what we're going to do is we got training programs. So as a young person, I suggest starting to look at companies that have training programs. Okay? Second thing, or second solution, really look into becoming a tradesman, or woman, say tradesperson, at a very early age. And the reason I say this is ain't no one going to give you a real job until you're 30 anyway. Okay? So instead of going down that route that all your teachers and your counselors and your guidance counselors, your parents, you need college, go to college. Well, so what? You want to be in school and impoverished until you're 30? Really? Here's an idea instead. At the age of 14, you're physically an adult enough to do labor, learn skills and trades, okay? Learn to become a plumber. Learn to become an electrician. Learn this stuff. I know you got to go to high school, but see if you can't take some classes over at the local community college, or better yet, if your dad or your mother happens to be a tradesperson, learn from them, or teach yourself on the interwebs. Go and teach yourself a trade. And then, even if you can, at the age of 16, start working in the trade. You're not going to be, you know, and I pulled some figures as a plumber, because perfect example of a trade. Plumbers, on average, make $46,000 per year, according to the Bureau of Labor Statistics. And if you follow the math, think about this real simply. If you start working at the age of 18, you use those 14 to 18 to get skilled in trading, you build it up. Now, you're not going to make 46 grand right off the bat. That's the average. But over the next 12 years, you should, in theory, average around that. The reason I say 12 years is because 12 years after 18, you'll be 30. Now, if I do the math right and do some rough statistical calculations with your taxes, you will have, in today's dollars, $330,000 cash. Because you didn't go to school, college. You didn't piss away all your money on student loans. You didn't constantly go and get certified. And even after you graduate, you didn't have no trade. You could be a plumber. You could be a chimney sweeper. You could be something like that. So by the time you're 30, and compare yourself now. You're the idiot. You're the moron who didn't go to college. Compare yourself to the brilliant people that went to college. They're 30. They got about, $50,000 in debt. And they don't really have employable skill or a trade, and they have to constantly keep going to get certified. You're the electrician. You're the carpenter. You're whatever. And now this assumes you live at home, but you might as well, because most 30-year-olds today end up living at home anyway. You just live at home. You bank all that cash after taxes. You have $330,000 in cash. Do you know how far ahead you'd be? You'd be in the top, seriously, you'd be in the top 1% of 30-year-olds if you had a net worth of $330,000. And this assumes it doesn't grow in investments or anything. Like, you just let it sit there in cash. Okay? So, I'm being deadly serious. In not doing what you were told to do, and just, it's not going to be easy. You got to work hard. You got to train yourself. You have to find some kind of skill or trade. And just doing that, the labor market has become so warped, so screwed, that not going to college, learning yourself a trade, doing what all those hoity-toity, white-collar teacher type, you don't want to go to trade school, you don't want to go to Votech, you want to go because you need to go to college. You need to do what? To screw yourself over? See, and here's the other thing. I know 30 seems like a long time away, and it is. But it ain't like you're missing out on anything. It's not like you're going to miss out on a career. Look at the unemployment rates of younger people, 30 and under. There is no opportunity. So it is it is a better path to go. I don't want to say it is, because then people say, well, I did this and I screwed up and I'm suing. And, okay. But it is, based on some very simple and realistic mathematics, you have a better chance of having financial success not going to college, at least until you're 30. I mean, you can always go to college. And then maybe people will take you seriously. I always say don't bother going to college or trying until you're 30 anyway. So there you go. That's how screwed up the labor market is, and the consequences of progressive credentialism. So that's another thing. And then finally, I always advocate this: go into the military. If you don't want to learn a trade, go into the military. Military will definitely challenge you. It will not be boring. I can take that back. Depending where you're stationed, it can be boring. But you know, it's going to be less boring than if you go and sit to college. And think about that. Who really wants to go to college? Aren't you done? Aren't you sick and tired of fucking school already? I mean, if K through 12 didn't melt your mind, I don't know how it could have been intellectually stimulating. Aren't you sick and tired of it? Aren't you going to be happy you're done with it? Why make it worse? All right, go into the military. Go do something. Get a trade, whatever. But the military, again, I'll say it real quick: food, clothing, shelter, insurance, education. All that's covered. So definitely take advantage of that if you want. And then when you're 35, 38, preferably 38, because then you get a pension, you get out. Again, you're way ahead of your contemporaries. People who are 38, trust me, I'm 38. I look at most of my peers, you know, and I don't hang out with losers. I'm in the upper classes, I guess, if you want to consider it that way. They're still struggling. I mean, if they would have done it, they'll agree with me. Talk to any 38-year-old. There, don't believe me. Ask any 38-year-old, hey, would you have been better off? 9 out of 10 would have said, yeah, if I would join the military, got a pension. Because there ain't no career. There really is not. So take it from us. We've gone down this rabbit hole. It sucks. We're trying to prevent you from making the same mistake, so you don't heed some of this advice. So that's it. That's all I want to talk about for progressive credentialism. Hopefully that will warn you kids out there about what the labor market is like, what you could expect. Sure, things could change over the next 4 years if you do decide to go to college, but it's very unlikely. So hopefully that helped. Toodles. Oh, and buy my book, Worthless. I should be retired by now. Every youth out there should be buying that book. And then, you know, then I would just be sipping on a beach in Costa Rica. And you want me to be happy, don't you? So, toodles.